Our scripture reading today is from Job 38 and 39. This is where God answers Job's questions. Have you ever wondered why things happen the way that they do? I think all of us do at some point in time in our life. We question, why is it that these things happen? You see, sometimes life brings us to moments where we feel lost, we're confused, or maybe we even feel overwhelmed. You see, when suffering or difficulty comes into our life, when it strikes, we may question why things happen the way that they do. Why are they happening? Or maybe you even wonder, is God even paying attention? In Job 38 and 39, what we see here is that God is speaking to Job out of a whirlwind. You know, sometimes we can feel like life's in a whirlwind, but here we have this extraordinary encounter that teaches us about God's power, His wisdom, and His sovereignty. God's power, His wisdom, and His sovereignty. You see, up until this point in the book of Job, Job has been asking God a lot of questions. He's been asking God difficult questions. He's seeking answers for the pain and the loss and the suffering that he has experienced. He and his friends, they have been engaged in a deep conversation, a deep theological discussion. And Job is trying to figure out why he is suffering. But you see, in Job 38, the tone changes. Everything changes here in Job 38. God responds, but he doesn't respond in the way that Job expected. Have you ever been there? God didn't respond the way that you expected. You see, in the middle of a whirlwind, God speaks to Job with a series of powerful questions. God asked Job some questions. Where were you when I established the foundations of the earth? Tell me, Job, where were you? If you have an understanding, Job, please explain. That's in Job 38:4. And then God continues with a barrage of questions. You see, these questions challenge Job's understanding. His understanding of the universe. God asked, who determined its dimensions? Who determined how big the universe would be? Surely you know, Job. Surely you know. Who stretched out a measuring line? Who stretched out the measuring tape across the earth? Who decided how big it was going to be? Job 38:5. You see, in these chapters, God doesn't give Job a direct answer to his unbelievably challenging questions about suffering. Instead, he reminds Job of his divine wisdom and his divine power and his divine sovereignty over all of creation. You see, God created the world with purpose, and he governs all things. He governs all things with perfect wisdom. Things that Job, as a human, a mere human, cannot understand. He cannot fully comprehend. He cannot fully grasp. And God asks about the foundation of the earth, the limits of the sea. And he asks him about the birth of the dawn, when it all started. He speaks of the wild animals. He talks about the mountain tops. He talks about the mountain goats and the ostriches. He asks, do you give the horse its strength, or do you clothe its neck with a mane of flowing hair? We find that kind of a crazy response in Job 39:19. You see, in these chapters, the Hebrew word El is the name used for God throughout the Old Testament. El is a word that emphasizes God's power as the creator and the sovereign sustainer, the sovereign ruler over everything. And in these chapters, God is reminding Job of his mighty power as the creator of the universe and as the one who created everything. You see, God knows every detail of creation. And nothing, let me remind you here, nothing escapes his knowledge. The question God poses is not meant to belittle Job. He's not trying to put him down. And the question to us is not trying to put us down, but to help him in his understanding of the big difference between God's wisdom and human understanding. The difference between God's wisdom and human understanding. God's response to Job shows us that there are mysteries that are beyond our understanding. These mysteries are beyond our comprehension. And we may not always understand why. We may not always understand why certain things are happening in our lives, in other people's lives, around us. But just as God has created and governs the world, he governs with precision and he governs with purpose. And we can trust that he is also at work in our lives today, even when we don't see the whole picture. Let me remind you, you don't see the whole picture. So, when you face questions and doubts, I want you to remember that God is in control of the details. Trust that his wisdom is greater than ours. Trust that his wisdom is greater than our understanding. That he is working in ways that we may not understand. So today I want you to take time to reflect on the beauty and the mystery and the complexity of the world in which you live. Look around you. Recognize that it all points to the powerful Creator.